Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to today's Partner Web Conference, Fast Track Dynamics 365 for Talent Tech Talk. Today's topic, Extending Dynamics 365 for Talent. My name is Leslie and I'm going to be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this web conference through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your PC speakers. Today's web conference is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. Participation in the meeting today indicates your consent to being included in the meeting recording. If you do not consent to this, please disconnect at this time. Attendees may access the web conference recording within 72 hours via the same registration link that was used to register for today's live broadcast. If you have any questions for the presenters or need support, you can turn on the Q&A panel by selecting the question mark icon located in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to questions throughout the presentation. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Nilima Goudavali. Okay, Nilima, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Leslie. Morning, everyone. So we have a lot of content to get through, so I'll just quickly take you through what we are covering today. So the topic of today is like extending a talent using PowerApps and Flow. So the session is more focused on PowerApps and Flow, but briefly we would be discussing different patterns that we have available in extending the talent for core experience apps and as well as HR core. Experience apps, I mean attract and onboard, and HR core is employee master data, which includes various submodules like ESS, MSS, performance, learning, and leave, and all of that. So, and we will dwell into a little bit more into the extensibility scenarios, a moderate to complex one using a PowerApps and Flow. And we have many tutorials available on creating a PowerApps in public domain. So I would rather focus more on the patterns that some of our customers and partners have been using in extending the talent using the apps and flows. And then I would also request you to, during the course of the presentation, if you have any scenarios that you wanted to use or you've been using for extending the talent using PowerApps and Flow, please feel free to put that in the chat window so that we can take it up. And if required, we can just come back to you with the next demo for those scenarios as well. So with that, let's just get started on the topics. So basically, if you see the talent extensibility, as I discussed, we have the experience apps and HR core. And in experience apps, if you see that you can extend an option sets like rejection reason, employment type, and seniority type. This particular statement is very specific to a field level extension model. That's what I'm talking about here. So you can extend the drop downs, but that extension of the drop down is specific to 3 different fields. Rejection reason is something that you use when you are rejecting a candidate. You can define your own reasons today. We have an extensive roadmap coming up for experience apps in a way that how you can extend the different fields, customize the job profile, and customize the candidate application as well. At the same time, we also have when you are creating a job template, this is a screen that most of you might have seen, where you have the custom activities like in PowerApps and YouTube and web content, which helps you to embed these activities at the time of a job template creation so that you can use these activities to embed PowerApps and as well as YouTube and web content iframe. So this entire setup that I'm talking about here, like custom activities, just PowerApps and web content iframe, that we would be seeing through the course of the presentation, how to embed a PowerApp using these activities. When it comes to HR core, the field level extensions, most of you must have already seen this window, which comes when you click the options where you can add your field, an additional custom field, and you can also add a Power App. So some of the Power App scenarios that we are seeing, we will be using these 2 screens to see that how we can embed a Power App into the experience apps as well as the HR core. So with that, let's just quickly focus on the today topic, more of a Power Apps and Flow. So in a summary, if we have to say what exactly a Power App is, it's a kind of a low code, no code platform. I can easily relate this with a simple Excel formulas where it references different cell when you are creating a formulas, in the same way that you can also create a formula using a specified syntax in formula. It's very easy. So, and then you also have many connectors available. At the same time, you can also integrate to the SharePoint, Office 365, Azure, etc. So Office 365 and SharePoint integration we will be seeing in some of the scenarios that we are going to discuss today. And not only this, these are the main features of that you will see when you're building a Power App. And also it offers numerous capabilities like it helps you to check your syntax as and when you write a syntax. You don't have to wait till you run the Power App. And then you also have administration capabilities and the SharePoint integration and all of that. I would probably in the next demo, we will be going through all of those features, and then I would help you to walk you through all of those points. So let's just quickly understand these things a little bit more. When you just open a screen for your Power App, the first thing that you see here, this is a setup, that web.powerapps.com. You will end up seeing all of the apps that you have built in the system. And then you also see the flow, and then you have the app section here, and then you also see this. So basically, let's say if I just take one single Power App, and if I get into the details of this, you will end up seeing the app ID. And also you would end up seeing the analytics here as well. That means it helps you to understand how many times this app is being used in a scenarios. And then how many people have launched, all the statistics you get that. And then also when you develop an app in an environment, you can export that package and import that package into a different environment. So that's also possible. So all of the scenarios that I'm going to demo today, these are available as a solution packages, in the sense like when you're exporting a package here, it creates a solution package, and then you can import it, something like this, and you can import it back. So these are the scenarios that I'm going to demo here today are available as part of a solution packages in the public domain. So using this option, you can you can import, export, and then you can transfer across your different environments. And before any, then we also talked about some of the features like app checker and all of that. So I'm going to quickly take you through those features as well. So what you are seeing in the screen is a studio where you actually create a Power Apps. This is a complete screen that you use and where it has a different components. So as I said before, rather than spending too much time on creating a Power App, I would rather focus on the pattern specific to talent here. This app is meant for showing candidate skills and self-assessment to a HR manager. For example, in a scenario where a candidate takes the self-assessment, usually HR manager, before taking the interview of the candidate, he might want to see that assessment. So candidate takes the self-assessment from the candidate portal. So once the candidate submit that self-assessment, it gets stored in the CDS. But for a hiring manager or interviewer to see that, we wanted to present that assessment from CDS into a Power App so that he gets an idea about the candidate prerequisites that is required for this job, and as well as the candidate skills before even he goes into the interview mode. So that's what this app does. If you see that this app has already a form viewer, which is a basic component, and then I'm going to show here how to add a table and then call a specific entity here. Let's say now I actually asked for a table here. It added a table here, basically a screen, a container for a table. Now I need to tell this app what is the data that it should be reading into this table. For that, I just click the connect to data, and then using a common data services connection, which is created already. Then I need to choose a specific entity here. Then I'm choosing an entity called candidate skills, because my goal is to read the skills of a candidate here into this table. Then I have connected this particular table to a candidate skills. Now it is popping up all the records of the candidate skills, but that's not what my goal is. My goal is I wanted to show the skill of a specific candidate. That means I need to filter the candidate skill for a specific candidate. That candidate is the candidate in question for whom the interview is being carried out. So now for that, what I need to do is I need to go here and I need to use a query called, or a syntax called filter. So if I just, the moment I'm typing, you see that there are certain recommendations popping up, and it is popping up all the entities that are in the picture here. So there is a one entity called candidate self-assessments, but the entity that we need for us to filter here is candidate skills. Now I need to filter this candidate skills based on a candidate ID. So I am going to say the candidate dot candidate number. I will explain this a little bit. So when the moment I say that in the flow, you will end up seeing the recommendations it's giving. So I'm going to just say that I need a candidate number here. So I'll search for a candidate number here. Here is the candidate number. Then I'll say candidate number equal to CID. So what is the CID? So let's answer that question as well. So now I'm just closing the syntax. So that means I'm filtering the candidate skills using a candidate number, and the number I'm saying that I stored in the candidate ID. So if you see here in this app, I am initializing a certain parameters here. So those parameters are nothing but basically a kind of parameters that are passed from the attract screen. If you see that the parameters that passed from the attract screen when you are using the app is activity ID, job ID, application, and candidate. If you see here, I'm taking this parameter into a variable called CID. The same CID, now I'm using it in the filter query for a candidate skills. So that's exactly what I have done here. And now we will also need to answer the question that how attract passes that parameters, which I will explain when you are embedding the app into the attract screen. Now, when it comes to data table, now you filtered it. Now you also have an option of choosing what fields you want in this data table. I'm only selecting the skill. I don't want anything else, but I want only the skill. So now here I go here and I save this app, and then I just publish this app. And this is how I just create a very simple app. So, and now let me quickly take you through one important point here. When you see a candidate skills here, it will not, I said candidate number. What is this all about? For that, we need to understand the candidate skills entity a little bit here. If you see the candidate skills entity, there is a column called skill, and there is also a lookup field here. That means the candidate skill entity is referencing a candidate here. It's actually a GUID field. So what we are doing, we are extracting the information from the candidate skill, but we are referencing the candidate, and we are extracting the data from the candidate entity as well. We are not directly calling the candidate entity, but we are calling the candidate skills, referencing the GUID, which is referenced in the candidate skills, which is called candidate, and then directly extracting the fields that are there in the candidate entity. So that is the opportunity that Powerup provides. It helps you to extract the fields of a different entity which are referenced in the parent entity. So that are the entity in question. The entity in question right now is a candidate skills, and it has a lookup field called candidate. So I'm referencing the lookup field called candidate, which actually references the entire candidate object. That's the reason I'm calling the fields of the candidate, and then I'm able to query the entire set here. So that is the way that you query most of the expressions here, because it doesn't work with this. I mean, it may not be a case that it always work with a single entity. You might have to reference different entities, but this is how you reference different entities in the Powerup. Now you have seen a little bit about how you call entity, how you can filter, and how you can add fields and all of that. Now let's understand how you can embed this Powerup into the attract screen. So let me quickly take you through where exactly you are going to embed this Powerup into the attract screen. So as I mentioned before, there are job templates that usually when you create a job, what you need is a template for that. This is a template that I just wanted to demo a little bit here. So this is a template created for this demo. And if you see here, all of these activities on your right, these are the activities, and activities very specific specifically mentioned here, like PowerApps and YouTube and web content. These are the activities that helps you to enable all of those extensions like PowerApp or YouTube video or an iframe. So what I have done here is I've already called the PowerApp activity in the candidate assessment, and then I have used a PowerApps ID here, which I've taken earlier from the detailed screen. So the moment I use this ID, it knows that what PowerApp it needs to call. And then ultimately it ends up calling that PowerApp. So let's see that a little bit here. When I have used this job template for creating this job. So that means like when I'm using the job template for creating a job, then it understands that it follows the steps that are detailed in the job template, which includes the PowerApp. This is a candidate right now assigned to this job. Let's see that because I embedded a PowerApp, me as a hiring manager, now I'm seeing this information. So this is how the information pops up for this specific candidate. How the system knows that it has to extract for this candidate, as we discussed earlier, it is going to pass parameters like candidate ID, job description, and as well as the job application ID. So whenever you are using a PowerApp in the job screen, it knows that it has to pass these parameters specific to that candidate and job. And because we are using these parameters in our filter criteria, it knows that it needs to extract that particular candidate information. So that's how you are seeing the skills of a candidate that is assigned to this job. That's Nilima Gurwali. And then you also see the self-assessment she has submitted when she is submitting the job application for this job. So this is basically how you model your information through PowerApp and then embed the PowerApp into the system. Once again, if you wanted to understand how you get this PowerApp ID, the way you get this ID is basically you go to the app section and then you take the app and then you get into the details of the app, and which helps you to give the app ID. So this is an app ID, which is an integration point between the app that you created and when you are embedding this app into the Attract, or for that matter, the HR core. So now this is a very simple demo of how you embed this app into the Attract. So now let's move on to the little bit more the complex scenarios. And before that, let's also discuss the flow a little bit, because flow is also an integral part of the extension model that we have for talent. Basically, if you see flow also comes with the n number of connectors as well. It has all 230 plus pre-built connectors, and you can integrate with the same like Azure or SharePoint or any of the ProDev extensibility codes. In some of the scenarios that I'm going to demo, we will see the SharePoint integration. We will see some of the flow checkers and the responses, etc. One thing that what really helped me in most of the talent scenarios when I was using a flow is Power Query integration. What it does is basically when you are trying to extract any information from the SQL, using this Power Query, you can transform the data even before you push the data from SQL to CDS. Flow helps you to connect to the SQL. And once it connects to the SQL to the specific table, you can activate the Power Query, which helps you to transform the data and get that data into your CDS database. And like that, there are a lot of other options available. At least I wanted to cover some of the common patterns in the flow in today's session. Let's just get into that one of the scenario that I wanted to show you for this. So this particular scenario, this is a scenario I'm talking about, the second scenario, that upload attachments to candidate artifacts entity. Candidate artifacts entity is the entity that carry the metadata of the attachment. Usually when you see that, this is a scenario most of our customers and partners are planning to implement, or some of them have already implemented, is basically when they wanted to use their own career portal for candidates to apply. Then by default, Attract provides you LinkedIn and Broadbean integration and as well as our own career portal. But if by any chance, if you wanted to integrate with your own company career portal, this scenario comes into the picture at that point of time. So you can use this particular scenario to create a candidate attachments, and you can also create a candidate information and job application. But for this particular demo purpose, I have restricted the scenario as to how to create a candidate attachments by integrating it to the CDS entity called candidate artifacts. So let's just quickly review the scenario a little bit here. So this would help you to understand the flow functionality here. So what I have done is for some, just to demo the scenario in this, I have actually manually triggering the flow, but otherwise you can always use a trigger, like, you know, when a candidate comes or when candidate records created, like that you can trigger a lot of, you can use a lot of inbuilt actions in the flow. But here I have used a manual trigger. The two inputs I am taking for this flow, one is an email, other one is the file content, because the file that I wanted to upload. Then based on the email, the next step, I'm extracting the candidate information. And then once after I extract the candidate information, here comes the little bit a deviation from the flow. I'm introducing an approval process, because let's say you are adding 2-3 recruiters provision to add an attachment, but you wanted to monitor that attachment addition. So as a hiring manager or as a admin, so in that case, what you can do is you can add a step called wait for an approval. This is a most recently released feature called custom responses for approval, where I'm saying that you wait for a response and then execute the next step. That means until I approve or reject, the next steps will not take place. So I'm saying that two response options, one is approve and the other one is reject. So, and then I'm giving my own ID, because it's easy for me to approve during the demo, or you can just give your own teams IDs, or you can create a distribution list, or you can assign it dynamically as well. And there is a condition now. So based on the approval or rejection, then I'm allowing the flow to continue. If the outcome is approved, then I'm allowing the flow to continue. If not, I'm saying no action. That means you're not adding in attachments. Alternate, you can also send a message to the person who is uploading an attachment that please edit, all that you can do. So now let's understand a little bit about the flow. So now we understood the flow. So let's say that now I wanted to take you through this parameters. What is this parameter in the flow? So usually when you are creating a flow, it helps you to create, it internally creates, rather I would say, some parameters. So if you see the moment you point here, you will be, this window pops up, which has a dynamic content and as well as an expression. Let's focus on the dynamic content. So I'm saying, please extract a candidate whose email equal to the email that I'm entering in the screen. So the way I say that the email entering in the screen is by using a variable. Who gives me variable? Flow gives me this variable. Flow internally creates this variable. So, and then I also have used a couple of other variables here. Basically, when I'm creating a record, let me quickly show you those variables as well. Basically, I wanted to create a record with the file name that I'm giving in the screen. So this is once again a variable. And then I wanted to create a record with the candidate ID. So how am I getting a candidate ID? I'm getting a candidate ID in the list record function. So the moment I say extract candidate ID using a list record, what it will do is it will offer me a placeholder which is storing a candidate ID. The placeholder I'm using here. So the placeholder is list records.msidan underscore candidate ID, which is a variable. So what it does is when you execute a flow, it internally stores a candidate ID extracted in the list records. So that means the whole point here I'm trying to make here is when you create a flow, it creates some internal variables based on the steps that you have created for a flow. So like, for example, you have created a list variable, list records in the step. So all of these are the variables that it automatically gives you. I have used some of them, like a candidate, And then I have also used an artifact ID here. All of those variables I have used from the window that pops up as a dynamic expression creation. So now let's execute the flow and understand how the flow runs, and as well as the approval process as well. I'm testing a flow, and then I'll say that I'll perform the action, and the flow is running. So now I'm giving an email because this email helps me to extract the candidate. And now I'm uploading the file. And the moment I upload the file, it stores this content as well as the file information in a variables, the placeholders the flow provides. And I've already used that placeholders in my flow. So in the runtime, it takes the information from that placeholders. And I'm running the flow now. So it started an activity. Now it runs and it stops here because it has to give me a screen for an approval. So it sends me an email. Alternatively, you can also approve it from here. So I'm going to the screen where it tracks all the approvals. If you see that there are history, you can see it from the history that all the approvals that you have done for this flow, and then what has been sent already and what has been received. So now I'm going to respond. And I think there are a couple of, so this is how I responded. And let's go to the flow again to see what it is doing for us. So it says that test succeeded. That means since because I approved, it allowed the next steps to execute, and it created a record for artifacts. If you see that how it is progressing through various variables, it entirely gives you the list of the variables. Here, you can see that all the metadata specific to candidate artifacts has been created, and you can check from there. And then it also created a notes entity. We didn't talk about this notes entity before, but let me explain. When you are creating a candidate attachment using a candidate artifacts is something that it stores the metadata. Notes is the entity which actually stores the content. So that's the reason why what I have done is I've created the artifacts first, and then I've created the notes as well. So you see here, it has used the document that I've uploaded, and it has created the object reference of it. And it has taken the object ID as the candidate artifacts here. And then that's a summary, but if you wanted to see the entire parameters created for this entity, you can see it from here. So now let's go and see from the attract screen how it has added this document. So when it creates a record on the CDS, the refreshing the record back into the attract is instantaneous. You don't have to wait, not even a single minute. So see that there are a couple of the documents I'm testing actually for this flow. That's when you see multiple, but it has added the new document here, which is like a upload.docs, and which is a test document primarily. So this is how you use a flow to integrate some of the functionality from CDS to talent, be it a core HR or be it a experience apps. So you can manually trigger, or you can trigger based on the record creation, or based on the record deletion, or based on the record updates. So that's what we can talk about. That's what we have seen, that how you can create a flow. Let's also understand how can we integrate a Power App into a core HR. So we have integrated a Power App into the experience apps, which is like attract. We have seen how to integrate a flow. Now we are going to see how to integrate a Power App into the core HR screen. Basically, in this scenario that I'm pointing out here, so what the scenario does is it talks about Office 365 integration. So this scenario is particularly useful when you wanted your manager to see all the team members and then wanted to extract their information. So what this app does is it goes and extract the entire team details of a manager who logs into the app, and then basically to extract their time exceptions. Time exceptions, I mean that let's say if your system is integrated to an external clock in and clock out system, time entry system, then if you wanted to understand who are coming late and what is the exceptions, what are the exceptions when they are entering the time. Let's say I came 20 minutes delay, I clocked in 20 minutes delay, and then my manager wants to see that data. This app helps it. So we have used a custom table in this app, which is called hours worked. Basically, how I'm filling this custom table is you can fill it in two ways. One is like you can just fill it using a logic app, or you can just create a flow which talks to a SQL server and gets the data from the SQL server into this table. And that is when we use a Power Query integration to transform the data as well. So this is a structure of the table that I have created, which has a clock in, clock out, and clock in delay, and etc. And let's understand and see that how we can integrate to Office 365, and then how can we integrate to this table to get the particular employee data here. So let me just quickly take you through the screen, this particular app here. If you see this app, it has two screens. The first screen is the kind of a login screen where manager clicks in, and then it takes his user, it identifies him, and then it goes and picks up his team information in the second screen. How it is happening is because I am calling a Office 365 functions here. Whenever I am just loading this app, I'm calling an Office 365 function to extract the information of the manager who logged in. So the P user is a variable which helps you to identify the logged in user. So if you observe the syntax, what I'm doing is here, I am taking the manager principal name here, and then I go into the gallery here. There is a gallery that is added. If you see here, there's a new component that I'm introducing. The gallery means the list of the items. If you wanted to display a list of the items, you will be using a gallery. So basically what I have done here is I have used a gallery component, and what I am using, what I am displaying in this gallery, the team members list. How I'm getting the team members? Because I've already tracked the manager username who logged into this app. Now I'm saying, please get me the direct reports of the P user. So, and that I'm using an Office 365 function here. Office 365.direct reports of a P user being the logged in user. So give me all that list into this gallery. That is what I have done. So I have actually used the syntax as a items to this gallery. That means all the items represented in this gallery are nothing but the direct reports of the P user. So now after I have done that, I have used one more component called data table, which will help you to track a specific day, time in, time out, and an exception, and with the date and the check field. And then I've also used a graph here to track the trend of the exceptions. Let's say that how many times that this particular employee clock in is delayed, like 20 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes delay. So it's tracking the trend. So that means this tab does the three functionalities here. It displays the reportees of a manager, and then it helps him to track the exceptions of a specific day for specific employee. Then it also helps him to understand the trend of that employee in terms of the clock in delays. Let me run this app and show you how it functions. Then we can come back and discuss the couple of syntaxes and formulas as well. So I have created a data for myself. This app basically, let's say, for example, when I clicked here, let me just quickly show you this. I clicked here because I have the data. It is giving me immediately the graph. That means the trend. I have a 20 minutes delay, 10 minutes delay, and 15 minutes delay. And then it is also showing me the data for a specific day. That's I'm delayed 20 minutes on a 3:13, and my scheduled clock in, scheduled clock out, and as well as. So that's how it is giving it information. So how do you get to this information is because what I have done is I have shown you how you are extracting the team members. Now, how are we integrating this particular user with the worker record? Because this information is a worker and this information is a users, because you are getting this users from Office 365. Now, in order to integrate this user record with the worker record, So here is what I have done. So whenever you click this on select, what I have done here is I have taken the user email into a variable called ID, and I'm setting that variable, and then I'm trying to get the worker record using that email. So because I am trying to integrate the users that I extracted from Office 365 into a worker record, because I need this worker record because I need to extract the clock in information. So that is what I'm doing. As and when I click this arrow, I got the user email, and now I'm integrating it to the worker record using his primary email address. And then I'm filtering because this particular table that I have used here, I need to filter for that specific worker. You have seen that filter criteria we have done for the earlier table. Same thing I'm doing here. I have used a table called hours worked, and then exactly similar syntax I have used, because this hours worked is also referencing the worker object, which is a GUID. I'm using that worker number, and then I'm referencing that worker object and getting the actual worker number. So that means basically when you see the hours worked table here, let me quickly show you what I'm doing. So this particular, if you see that worker number is a lookup field, that means this is a custom table which is referencing the worker number, which is referencing the worker object through worker number. That means if I need to extract the details of a specific worker, what I am doing is hours worked dot worker number, that means this particular column, dot the actual worker number of the record. That means I am first referencing my table, then I'm referencing this particular column. Because this column has a worker reference, I am directly taking that worker reference to call the fields of a worker entity. Although all those fields of a worker is not part of this entity, I can easily call all the fields of the worker by referencing this particular column, because this particular column has an entire entity reference of a worker. That's exactly what I'm doing here using this particular statement called a filter. So that filter statement I'm using for this table.
So Nilima, there's a question specifically to what you're covering right now. Is the hours work table a custom CDS entity?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now this is how I have done, and then the graph also. So if you are seeing that I'm a little bit struggling with my mouse, the Power-Apps, actually, when you write too many formulas into one single screen, it sometimes behaves, it try to extract most of it actually. So that's what you are seeing. So this now Power-App, this particular thing, now I'm planning to embed into a talent screen. That's a core HR screen. So let me just quickly refresh the screen, and then I can just take you through the same thing that we have done for Attract, like how we embedded a Power App using an app ID. We are going to do the same thing for a core HR as well. Give me a minute, guys. I mean, while it refreshes, I'm just. So let me just otherwise log in. So you take the app ID from here, and then basically you go from, this is an app ID that we need to take, and you go to the details of the time clock. Let's say this is an app ID that you will be taking here, and you go to the talent, and then let's say I wanted to embed this into a employee self-service here. So let's go to the employee service. It's already embedded here, but I can just delete that and then recreate it. So then you click on this personalize this form. So earlier in the PowerPoint presentation also, you have seen this, like how you can add a field and you can add a Power App. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the personalization on this phase and then just reload it. Yes. Now let's go to the options, personalize, and then just add a Power App. So if you remember, we need to take the ID of the Power App. Let me just go and quickly copy this ID. And then say add Powerup. And then it helps you to highlight which section you wanted to add, which form. I've highlighted this form, so it helps me to pop up this. I'm going to say that team time tracking, and then provide an app ID. Actually, you wanted to, whatever the input data that you wanted to create, you can do that. But this particular app doesn't really need any input because it automatically tracks the user logged in. Whenever the moment you click the button, it just tracks the user. So that's the reason why you may not need the parameters to be passed. Otherwise, you can pass the parameters which are available for that form. So let me reload the form so that you can see this. Yeah, so this is how you see that. Then the moment I click it, it automatically identifies who is clicking here. And then it gives me the complete list of the team members and then their information. So this is how you will be embedding the app into the core HR and then passing the parameters, and initializing the parameters is exactly works in the same way that we have seen earlier using the param and all of that. So now with that, we understood how we can create an app and something like which is integrated with the Office 365 and embedded into the core HR. Now, just give me a minute, sorry. So let's understand a little bit of common issues that we have come across from the past 6 to 8 months. And then I've noted some of these issues because these are the issues that partners and customers have asked us, and then we help them to provide the solutions. Let's also understand these issues. Like this, I won't call it as a common issues. These are more of a tricky issues, some of them. So like a couple of questions like how long I retain the approval history. It's an indefinite period. Then most importantly, we have recently released a end-to-end relationship. And then there is a specific way you query that end-to-end relationship in a flow. Then I'm going to take you through that now in a bit. Basically, what is actually the end-to-end relationship? If you see here, the end-to-end relationship is basically, let's say if you go to any entities, a talent pool actually has end-to-end entities. So it's an easy one. So I'm going to take you through that. Attract has a concept called talent pool where you can push all the candidates into a one pool, and this candidate can be in the multiple pools also. That means it's a many to many. It's like you can add 10 candidates to one pool, and the same 10 candidates can be present in the other 9 pools as well. So if you wanted to query this information into the flow, it is very different way that you have to do it. So that is what I'm going to take you through. So if you see that it's a talent pool entity, but we have created a many-to-many relationship with the talent pool and candidate. So basically, if you wanted to query that to manipulate this relationship, I have used an entity name called MSDYN_talent pool candidate set. You have not seen this entity at all. This is not the entity we talked about. We talked about the talent pool entity, but where this entity have come from. So what happens is actually system, when you create a multiple relationship, end-to-end relationship, it internally creates an inner join and one more entity that CDS creates it. So you have to capture that newly created entity. It is not visible in any of your screens here. It will only visible by following a certain process. The process is nothing but you need to go here and you need to go to the advanced customizations. Sorry, you need to go to the you need to go to the advanced customization, extract the okay, let me not waste time on this. Like I have the URL, you have to extract this URL given for the developer. There's a place called developer resources. Extract that URL and then copy paste that URL in the browser. The moment you copy paste the URL, then when you press the talent pool here, it will give you the set of entities that are created for talent pool. You will see this like MSDYN_talent pool.candidate set and talent pool candidate set. So this is the inner join created the moment you created the end-to-end relationship. That means the moment I created an end-to-end relationship here for a specific talent pool entity with the candidate, which I demoed earlier in the relationships tab. So it will automatically create this custom entity in the CDS. You need to track it down. The way to track it down is you take the URL from the developer resources, which actually you are accessing the API of that particular environment. So when you access that environment, it gives you this particular entity. This is an inner join or an entity created for this end-to-end relationship. Then you take that entity, you come here and then say it's a current, and then use that entity by selecting the custom field, because this entity is not visible anywhere. You'll not find this entity. But you have to add it as a custom entity. The way to add it as a custom entity is just copy this and then go to your flow and say custom. So enter a custom value, and then it gives you an option to add this entity. So that's how you need to query the end-to-end relationship. This particular entity, once again, I'm just repeating, this is not visible anywhere in your entity list, and you have to capture that using your API URL. So that's a point that I wanted to discuss. And then we'll also see a little bit about querying the end-to-end relationship in the Power Apps. Basically, if you go here, so many customers and partners have reached out to us and asking us like how to query this end-to-end relationship in the Power Apps, because it's mostly recently released. I've developed a simple app which is like taking the same talent pool concept, because it has inbuilt talent pool to candidate relationship, which we have just seen. So what this does is this app, it has two galleries. One gallery source is talent candidates. If you see this gallery 2, that's nothing but this one. And the other gallery source is, let's say, the other gallery source is talent pools. There are 3 galleries here. One is talent pool, other one is the candidates, and the third one is also candidates. But if you see the second gallery, this gallery that I'm representing, that I'm pointing here, so it only takes the selected candidates. That means what is this app does is, first it displays all the talent pools, and then the moment you select one talent pool, this particular gallery items is the selected candidates of this item. So that means it displays the list of the candidates assigned to this particular talent pool. So that is the data source for this talent pool is nothing but the selected candidates from the talent pool. And what it helps you to do is, if you want, you can associate a specific candidate to a pool, or you can delete that candidate from the pool, or if you want, you can add a new candidates. So how do we do that? Let's say, for example, if I just take this pool as an example pool, this is a LinkedIn talent pool, and you will see a names repetition because it is all the talent pools of an environment. So that's the reason many people might have created this pool. So that's where you see the names repetition. So I am just selecting a particular pool here, and these are the list of the candidates. Now I wanted to unrelate this candidate from this pool. So I just clicked on that name. So it takes him off from that pool. That means he's deleting the association of that particular name to this pool. Now I wanted to add a new candidate. Let's select. I wanted to add some 3365, which is an example name, and then say add. So it's going to add to this pool. So how it is happening is basically I have end-to-end relationship provides 2 functionalities here. So on click, I'm relating the selected candidate from this combo box to the list of the candidates. This relate is the function syntax provided for end-to-end relationship. Then I wanted to, when I'm disconnecting or deleting the candidate from that association, I need to use a syntax called unrelate. So this relate and unrelate are very specific to end-to-end relationship. That's how I could able to achieve this functionality. Basically, one thing that worth remembering for this talent, especially the end-to-end relationship, is the syntaxes and the functionalities that you achieve are relate and unrelate, which is a little bit limited. But if you wanted to filter, let's say you wanted to get the talent pools, only the unique talent pools, like not the duplicated ones, then you cannot do that filtering and all of that yet. I think it's still in the progression of the development, but to an extent, I have seen this is a wonderful feature that you can use for managing any such many-to-many relationships. And also you can query the many-to-many relationship in the flow, and I've just kind of demoed that. So, and I think we have a quick time check. And then we also have one more important aspect that I wanted to cover is like there's a repeated ask on how to link an Azure function to PowerApp, and why do we need to do that? What is the use of it? Basically, I found it really useful because you can, if you wanted to create a lot of query conditions and then the logic, you can do everything in the Azure function and you can just return the Azure function to PowerApp. Basically, when you create an Azure function, we can just create a custom connector using an Azure function and call it as a source for source into the PowerApp. This particular one, which I'm talking about, Azure function, I'll make sure that this is available in the resources. But for now, for this session, I'm going to take you through quickly through the demo article, the article that's published on this. You can refer this article. It has all the steps created, given that to create an Azure function. Basically, once after you create an Azure function, the way we do it is we create a quick connector, a custom connector, which is a very easy connector. So let me just quickly, because most of you may be aware of creating a Azure function. So from the Azure function, once after you create, this is how you create a custom connector. And then you define the function in the custom connector like this, and you define the request for that custom connector, and as well as you define the response as well, your response object. So then you can integrate this custom connector into the PowerApp in the same way that we integrated earlier the different data sources, and then it helps you to pull the information. But all this information that I'm talking about are the solutions that we demoed. So these solutions you can access using this link. I'll make sure that I will also add a custom connector and Azure function also into this resource so that you can download and see that how it is enabled. These are some of the resources that you wanted to use, but especially this particular resource I wanted to point out. Recently, we have started a doc article where we are starting publishing all of the solution packages that we have discussed. One request I have here is please use those solution packages as a templates, because this has done basically keeping in mind of some of the patterns that customer or partners using. It may not exactly replicate your scenario. You might have to customize it. So you can download these templates, but make sure you test it thoroughly before using it for your scenarios. So some of the scenarios are already there, but some like end-to-end and all of that, I'm going to add it to this page. At the same time, I'm going to add to the Azure function as well. So with that, I think we have come to an end of the presentation, but I wanted to take, because now we have another more 7 minutes. Let me just quickly check if we have any questions that I can answer.
I think I have one that got lost as well. Is it possible to get access to these apps and flows that you have created?
Yes, that's the article. This is where we are uploading everything. So all they have to do is they just have to go and click on this link. It takes them to a download center. So where they can just simply download as a solution packages, and then it has to follow the export and import process. Once after they download, they can just import these packages into their system.
You want me to read the other question as well?
Yeah, I'm just looking at, it helps probably.
Can you use Visual Studio, the Team Foundation, to work with flows and PowerApps?
Yes, you can integrate it. Basically, I haven't tried it, but yes, we can do that. Yeah. They can see it from the blog. Couple of articles were already there. Some of the blogs are there in the resources. You can go and check on the resources. Actually, for creating an Azure function, we have used it, but probably I can just put that out here in the resources so that you can just see it from there. Yeah. Any other questions?
That were all that were provided so far.
Okay, so then probably we have 7 more minutes. Maybe I can just take this time to quickly, although I'm not prepared for it, probably I'll just take this time to quickly show you the custom function as well. Let me just quickly log into the, because I need to log into the other environment. So this environment, I have the custom connector created for an Azure function, and I'm calling into the that custom connector into the app. Let me just quickly take you through that one as well. If you see that in the custom connectors, oh, sorry, I just have to use. I'm sorry, I just have to use another environment. So.
While Nilima gets logged into that other environment, just wanted to point out that I have posted a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel there. We'd greatly appreciate it if you could take a moment to access that prior to logging out today. And with that, back over to you, Nilima.
Yeah, thank you. So this is an environment where we have that custom connector, and then a simple Power App, which is calling that custom connector, which is like done for a Azure function. Yep. I need to select the right environment, which is my demo 3. Yep. This is the app that we have created where it calls the custom connector. While it runs, it's a simple app where you just give a leave request and which points you to the custom Azure function. Let me just open it in the edit mode. And then I also wanted to take you through the connector that's created for this purpose. So here is what we have created, a simple connector where it has 4 tabs like general, security, definition, and test. So this is the URL that points to the Azure, and then you have the definition here, the actual screen where you will be defining. I have defined my function, get newly request details, and this is the URL for my function, and then I have defined the response body here. You can define by uploading a particular template as well, like basically, and then you can also test it from here, by the way. And then this is how, so it's very easy. That basically there are 3 steps that you need to do. All you have to do is you have to call the URL, and then you have to call the function, and then you define the request body for that, and then the response details. So after you created a connector, and then you get into you need to link this with the Power App. So the way to do that is, let's say I have done the data table here. So simple data table. And then I have defined an items as a response. So where is this response coming from? The response is coming from my custom connector, because I have defined this as a response. So that means this custom connector lends me a response object. Whenever an input entered, this lends me a response object. And that response is being captured as a source for my data table. That means if I supply an input here, or if I submit something here, so it goes into it calls an Azure function, and it returns me the response object. Since the response object is tagged to a data table, then automatically I will end up seeing the details specific to that object. So let's just, I'll take one simple example. Probably I'll just try to show you how it displays the response object. Here I have used a function called leave request details. Let me just quickly go on to get one leave request details ID. So this is the entity that I have used.
So Nilima, I just got a lot of questions around the same topic. How
Wow.
tricky it is to move PowerApps between environments or between tenants?
It's simple and easy. We can point to a particular page where it talks about that. I guess you are asking about the solution packages, right? Creating a solution packages and upload and export and import. Yes, it's very easy. So here what I have done, so if you see here, since because that response object is tagged to a data table, the moment I supply an ID, it calls the Azure function, it is returning me these details. It's a simple app that's done for as a prototype, and I just wanted to quickly demo this as well. This isn't because we have time. So that's pretty much that I wanted to cover. And yeah, so if you really wanted to see how to export and import packages, we have provided a link here. Let me also quickly take you through that link. In the documentation that I have shown earlier. I'm sorry, I don't know where it is. Yeah, it's here. Yeah, you can just go and click on this migrate apps between the different environments, which can take you through the complete process flow, how you can just export and import these apps. Does that answer your question, Par?
Yeah, I think it's answered. Final question then. So in Core HR, when you add custom fields, can that reference fields in another existing entity?
In Core HR, when you add field, can it
custom fields? Yeah, can that reference data in another existing entity?
Yes, we have provided the custom fields for a specific entities as on now, and those are in the progress of releasing few more entities. Yes, you can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we are pretty much on top of the hour. So thank you all for joining the session, and please feel free to post your questions back to me. And we will be uploading the recording very soon with all the solution packages as well.
All right, super. Thanks, Nilima. We hope you found today's information helpful, and if you enjoyed today's web conference or have feedback on how we can provide you with a better event, please do let us know by using that survey link posted in the Q&A tool there. This does conclude today's web conference. Attendees will be able to access the web conference recording within 72 hours via the same registration link that you used to register for today's live event. I'd like to extend a great big thank you to both Nilima and Par, and thank you, audience, for logging in and joining us. Have a great rest of your day.